Today's episode is all about keeping time. And a little rhyme to remember is if you can't keep time, you'll never make a dime. I'm Dr. Rob Graham, and I've been playing in the same classic rock cover band for 17 years. I am a gigging drummer. Welcome back. Today's episode is about probably one of the most important facets of drumming in my mind, and that's the ability to keep time. I am reminded by a really cool scene in a documentary on one of my favorite bands, The Police. And in that, Stuart Copeland is playing, and Andy Summers turns around right in the middle of this big concert and is yelling at him, "Too fast, too fast." So, as kind of like a weekend warrior drummer, I take a level of confidence from that. That, you know, one of the world's greatest ever drummers, Stuart Copeland, I mean, he struggles with keeping time in his famous band, The Police. So, keeping time then for a drummer playing in a bar band, recording, whatever it is, that's kind of, you know, if you can't keep time, you'll never make a dime. That little rhyme I came up with, it is really so true. So I think, you know, as you're starting your drumming at whatever level, at my level, playing with the band that I do, my classic rock cover band, that ability to keep time is kind of my bread and butter. My t-shirt of the day, AC/DC, Canadian version, I think of Phil Rudd. And I just think of a guy that, man, he just drives AC/DC with those beats that we've all become so accustomed to. They're not over the top complex, but they just have solid time and solid backbeat. So I think of a drummer who the hallmark of his signature is time. Phil Rudd, for me, one of the famous drummers of AC/DC, I think epitomizes time. So my background and my PhD is in technology enhanced teaching and learning. And I'm always looking for a technological edge. And even 17 plus years ago, when I started on this drumming journey and started playing with the band MLC, I was always looking for a technological edge to kind of help me with keeping solid time. And of course, the first thing I gravitated to, and one of the first pieces of technology I purchased, was a Yamaha click station. Now, of course, we're all familiar with the click track, and most certainly that was the first thing that I explored trying to use to keep time. What I found is playing to a click track wasn't necessarily feasible, or it maybe even needed, playing in a bar band for what we did. I also discovered that playing to a click track is no easy feat, and it takes a lot of practice. And again, so that was the first thing that I attempted in my journey towards, well, how do I keep solid time outside of, just my own internal clock, which also is very important. Well, I stumbled upon something called the tempo ref. And what I'd like to show to you today is what I believe has been the perfect solution for me in terms of addressing how do you keep time and how do you keep that steady time for your band. Now, unlike a click track that is kind of this intrusive thing that's in your ear and can be very distracting, right? And it's one steady time. I happen to believe when you're playing in a bar band, as I do, that, time is organic. So depending on the crowd, depending on the energy of the band, time in terms of a song, there's an energy and maybe a certain flow to that goes with the audience. That's not to say, though, that every song has kind of like this signature time that you should be playing in, right? But I also do believe there's a little bit of an organic nature. There'll be a push and a pull. And I think when you hear a lot of famous drummers, they'll talk about that when they're playing a live show. There's a push and a pull to the actual meter of a song. But having said that, I know that I've been guilty of as a drummer, sometimes, pushing that too far, or sometimes, for whatever reason, pulling it back. So what do you do to address that? Well, the tempo ref, unlike an actual click track, is a device that I don't really know if you can find this online anymore. Really cool. But if I get enough interest in today's video, what I will do is I'll have an episode 2 where I have discovered that what you can do is you can literally create a tempo ref using the trigger out on a click station. So if enough people are interested in this, just respond in today's YouTube and say, yeah, Rob, I'd like to see how you can actually convert a click station, which these are more readily available, into actually a tempo ref. So I'll show you how to do that. But let me just really first give you a quick down sizing on what the tempo ref is. The tempo ref does not provide you a beats per minute. And a lot of guys and gals, I think, get hung up on that. With the number that's going to appear here is not a beats per minute. And the originator of the tempo ref, he actually talks about that. Don't get hung up on that. What you have to understand, it's a constant. It's a mathematical constant. And that's all that matters. So let me show you the way it sets up. So there's a simple piezo trigger that you just use gaffer's tape, and you literally just tape to your snare drum about 1 inch off. Now normally I'd position it up at the top of my snare, but for today's demo all I did is I took a little piece of gaffer's tape and you just plug the actual trigger into the tempo ref, and I just taped it about 1 inch or 2 outside of the snare. Now when I actually hit, you will see that the number actually comes up and the number changes depending on my beat and my tempo. Don't worry about the fact that it's not a beats per minute. It's a constant. All right? So just know that it's a constant. So the way you can use this, and the way I use this, is whenever our band rehearses a song and we put a set list together, I always have my tempo ref on my snare drum. What I will say to the guys is, hey man, how did that feel? Did you like that tempo? Yeah, that was perfect, maybe a little bit faster. So what I will do is I will record the actual number on my tempo ref behind the song or beside the song. So maybe it's 89, and I'll just put whatever song name it is, and I'll put -89. Now, over the years, what I've done is I've actually recorded the tempos on my master set lists so that when we're putting our set lists together, if there are songs in particular that I struggle with, I don't do it for every song, but there are some songs I struggle with keeping that and finding that meter, then what I'll do is I'll actually write down the tempo ref that we played it with when we rehearsed. Now what it does is when I'm playing, this tempo ref sits, it just kind of has a piece of Velcro, it sits on the floor, and I normally just put it to the left of my snare drum. And so I can look down and I can literally see, okay, I've got that at 89, but I'm at like let's say 82. Geez, I'm way behind. So unlike a click track that's kind of like this intrusive beat in my ear that I can, maybe is a little bit distracting, this just gives me a glimpse that I can look down and see if I'm in the ballpark. Now, if I'm 1 or 2 off, right, my guys are at the point now where they can say, oh, you dragged it a bit, or you weren't right on the number. So we've gotten accustomed to keeping it pretty close to that number. But for me, it's just a really nice kind of psychological edge to know that for songs that I've got to make sure that I keep it driving, I can simply look down and see where I am in relation to that number that we practiced it at. So unlike a click track, the beauty of this tempo ref then, it's not intrusive, it's not in your ear, and it does allow for some of that organic nature that a lot of really high-end drummers talk about when they're playing. They don't want to be locked into a click. That kind of takes away some of the vibe. And especially for me with what I do in our bar band, right, there is kind of that push and pull based on the chemistry of the band that night and maybe a little bit more energy. And we get paid, like I said in one of my last episodes, to make people dance. So the fact of the matter is there might be times where we might push a song a bit just for the whole, danceable nature of it. So that's the tempo ref. Now, again, if you think that this is something you'd like to learn a little bit more, then what I would do is simply message on my YouTube, give me an actual message saying, yeah, Rob, I'd really be interested to know how you could convert an actual Yamaha click station into a tempo ref. I can go over that, and I would be glad to do that. So the tempo ref then, that was my solution to trying to address the actual time and the meter issue as a drummer. Is it perfect? Definitely not. But for me, it's probably been about the best technological support that I've been able to find to help me. Now, in upcoming sessions, what I will do is I will show you a couple of apps that I found that are, again, not intrusive, that I think can also help with the time. But again, I'm always going to gravitate towards that tempo ref. So, today's episode, Gigging Drummer. If you can't keep time, you will never make a dime. Hope that was useful for you. Make sure you click on like, make sure you click on subscribe, and again, just message me down below if there's any comments, or if you actually have found something that can help you and us with keeping time. All right, keep the beat. Thanks for tuning in. Look forward to the next episode.